All right, so Gemini Notebook is seriously challenging ChatGPT for document research, and the gap is bigger than I expected. A Tow Center study found ChatGPT's citation error rate sits at 67%. And honestly, that number kind of tells the whole story here. So right now, more people are uploading 200-page PDFs to AI tools than ever before and getting burned by bad citations. I'm comparing Gemini Notebook versus ChatGPT across 4 real tests using verified sources only. No vendor money, no spin. And honestly, one of these tools wins pretty clearly on 3 out of 4 tests, but that loss might actually matter more to you than all 3 wins combined, depending on how you work. This comparison is for you if you're doing real document research, like uploading contracts, research papers, or long reports, and needing answers you can actually trust and verify. Pick the wrong tool, and you're either getting hallucinated citations you can't check, or you're stuck manually chunking files just to get a halfway decent summary. That's real time lost on real work. Test 1 is long-form document summarization, and this one matters a lot if you've ever uploaded a 200-page PDF and gotten back a summary that kind of just covers the first few chapters. The real question is whether these tools can actually synthesize the whole document end to end, or whether they're skimming the top and hoping you don't notice what they missed. Okay, so here's what we got. Gemini Notebook is built as a strict RAG engine, meaning every answer it gives you comes only from what you uploaded. ChatGPT is a generalist, and for very long documents, it needs manual chunking, which means it can lose cross-document context and tends to emphasize early sections over buried details. Both tools have hallucination risk. Take that seriously, but structurally, Gemini Notebook handles large document synthesis way more cleanly. Gemini Notebook takes test 1 because its RAG-only architecture means it's synthesizing across your actual uploaded materials instead of guessing from general knowledge. Score is Gemini Notebook 1, ChatGPT 0. If you're working with long documents and need the summary to actually reflect the whole thing, that structural advantage is pretty hard to argue with. Test 2 is source citation and grounding reliability. And honestly, this is the one I think matters most for serious research. If you're writing a report or doing due diligence and your AI tool is giving you citations that don't actually exist, that's not just annoying, that's a real liability, because you need to be able to click a source and confirm the claim is real. So the data here is pretty striking. A Tow Center study found a 67% citation error rate for ChatGPT. And there's a documented case where someone asked for 50 company URLs and every single one returned a 404. But ChatGPT said everything was fine. The Gemini Notebook links every answer to an exact passage in your uploaded sources, so you can click through and verify. It's not perfect. Quiz generation can still hallucinate, but the citation mechanism is structurally different. Gemini Notebook takes test 2 because passage level citation links you can actually verify are structurally more trustworthy than web citations with a documented 67% error rate. Score is now Gemini Notebook 2, ChatGPT 0, and 2 tests, and it's not close on the research trust dimension, which is kind of the whole point of these tools for document work. Test 3 is context window for large uploads, and this one matters because if you're trying to load a massive file into one of these tools and it can't hold the whole thing in memory, you're going to get incomplete answers. Knowing the actual token limits upfront lets you plan your workflow instead of running into a wall halfway through a project. Okay, so ChatGPT has clearly published numbers. 128,000 tokens for GPT, PyFast, up to 200,000 for O3 and O4 Mini in-app, and up to 1 million tokens via the API with a 512 megabytes per file cap and about 2 million tokens per text file. Gemini Notebook, I couldn't find a single published token limit in any source material. And that's not me guessing, that's just an honest omission in their docs. ChatGPT takes test 3 because it actually publishes its context window specs. And Gemini Notebook just doesn't, which makes capacity planning impossible on the Gemini side. Running tally is Gemini Notebook 2, ChatGPT 1, and I want to be upfront that this win is really about transparency, not necessarily about which tool handles bigger files in practice. I want to be honest here. This one's not really a fair apples to apples comparison because Gemini Notebook might handle large files just fine in practice. We just don't have the published numbers to confirm it. So take ChatGPT's win on this dimension as a transparency win, not necessarily a capability win. If Google publishes those limits, this result could look pretty different. Test 4 is Google Workspace and ecosystem integration. And this matters if your whole team lives in Google Docs, Slides, and Drive. The friction of converting files before uploading them to an AI tool sounds small, but when you're doing it 10 times a day across a team, it adds up fast. A native integration versus a workaround is a real difference in daily workflow speed. So Gemini Notebook accepts Google Docs and Slides directly as source types. With no file conversion needed, Workspace admins can toggle it on or off per user. And after the July 2026 rebrand, notebooks sync across the Gemini app and Google Search. ChatGPT's Workspace connection is real but indirect. Google Drive uploads work in enterprise, and Gmail or Sheets support runs to a third-party add-on, not a native integration. And one caveat is that if your org runs Microsoft 365, ChatGPT Enterprise's SharePoint support flips this. Gemini Notebook takes test 4 because native Google Docs and Slides integration with full workspace admin controls is just a cleaner setup than a third-party add-on. And the final score lands at Gemini Notebook 3 ChatGPT 1. For teams already in the Google ecosystem, that native connection removes a lot of daily friction you probably don't even realize you're dealing with. So where does Gemini Notebook clearly win? Its RAG architecture means every answer traces back to what you uploaded. It literally can't cite a paper that isn't in your sources. Inline passage level citations let you verify claims in seconds. It pulls Google Docs and Slides in natively with no conversion. And on paid plans, it generates audio overviews and video shorts from your documents, which ChatGPT's text-only interface just can't match. Now, where does ChatGPT clearly win? It publishes its context window specs up to 200,000 tokens in-app and 1 million via API, so you can actually plan around them. ChatGPT Enterprise supports SharePoint and OneDrive uploads, which is a real advantage if your org runs Microsoft. It handles a much broader range of task types beyond document research. And its 512 megabytes per file limit gives you concrete documented headroom for very large individual files. So here's the decision rule. If you're uploading PDFs and research documents and you need to trust where the answer came from, use Gemini Notebook because the RAG grounding and passage level citations are genuinely different from anything ChatGPT offers by default. But if you need a generalist that handles document work plus everything else, you're on Microsoft 365, or you need published context window specs for capacity planning, ChatGPT is the right call.